You know that feeling where it's 4 p.m. and you're still out and your phone's battery is sitting at 18%. So you start doing the math in your head. Should I turn off my 5G? Should I even reply to that message? Or should I dim the screen to very low to save battery? That feeling, my friend, is called battery anxiety. And most of us just live with that. And when Xiaomi told me that they put in a 10,000 milliamps of battery inside of a phone, my first thought was, okay, it's gonna be super thick like a power bank lah. And my second thought was that this is a Redmi Note series phone. So what did I have to cut in order to pay for it? Hence, I was ready to go in being very disappointed. But 3 days later, I still have not looked for a charger, and there was one moment in day number 2 that I did not plan for at all, which I'll come back to you in this video. So this is the Redmi Note 17 Pro Max 5G, and here's everything that you need to know. So watch first and buy smart. So let me show you what happens when I actually live with this. But before that, here are my rules. 3 days, no charger, no power bank, and no cheating. Just the phone and my normal week. So I started day 1 at around 9:39 AM at 99% battery. Now by the end of day 1, I was actually expecting to be somewhere around 30%, but I was at 65% at around 11:24 PM with 4 hours and 5 minutes of screen on time without turning on dark mode as well. So that is when I realized that this is going to be a different kind of test. Day 2 is where the story usually ends for every other phone, where you wake up firstly with a huge battery drain and you start to play it safe, right? Like manually dimming the screen lah, forced closing apps, and probably start switching off certain features on the phone. But not over here, because firstly the battery drain was only 2%, going from 65% to 63% at about 8:16 in the morning, where I ended the night on day number 2 with still 43% battery left at about 11:27 PM with another 3 hours and 34 minutes of screen on time. And this is when the numbers start to make sense, because Redmi actually ran their own lab tests and the figures are wild. Local video playback over 40 hours, YouTube over 34 hours, TikTok over 29 hours, which I do not recommend for you all to do so, PUBG with over 18 hours of actual gameplay, and voice calls on 5G nearly 79 hours. But when it comes to listening to music, if you listen to music through the Bluetooth headphones over here, it is about 194 hours. Now those are lab numbers, so do treat them as best case scenario, but even if you cut them down for real life, this is still nowhere near a normal phone. Now here's the moment that I promised you in the beginning. So what happened was that I was out bringing my son near my condo pool just to have some fresh air. No thanks to the current haze situation, but yeah. And while I was carrying him on one side, I took off this phone and it slipped off from my hands and it fell into the pool. Yes, luckily it was not him which fell, because I would be a very irresponsible father then. So for a phone with this segment, the old me would have panicked, like, you know, wipe it off, switch it off, and shove it into rice and just pray. But this time I kept going because of its IP rating, which is built to survive. Now the Redmi Note 17 Pro Max 5G has not one but 4 freaking IP ratings: IP66, IP68, IP69, and IP69K. Yes, K is for quad gila. Just kidding. So let me break down this IP rating in plain language. So IP66 means that it can withstand heavy jets of water. So you can think of this as a heavy downpour straight on the phone. Then IP68 means that it can submerge on water. Then IP69 and IP69K means high pressure and high temperature water jets. Now this is the kind of test built for industrial equipment, not phones. And then Redmi also says that it took 17 separate waterproofing designs inside this phone to get there, like the speakers, the Type-C ports, the mic holes, the SIM tray, and even the SIM ejector pin hole. And the lab rating is 2 meters deep for 72 hours. That is full 3 days underwater. Nani? Now to be fair, that is still lab results in still fresh water, so it's not promised for situations in seawater or even a hot shower, but it tells you exactly how much margin that this was built for when it comes to a water situation. But water is one half, drops are the other half, because the screen has a Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 and the whole frame has been reinforced in what Redmi calls it the Titan structure. Now because of this Titan structure, it is also certified certified with a 3-meter drop resistant. Now, certified is the keyword over here because SGS actually tested it, dropping it into smooth granite, 3 meters higher than most of us use a phone. And Redmi is also quick to say that this does not make it unbreakable because obviously it is still electronics and it's still made of glass. But the difference between a phone that claims durability and that has certification is not just paperwork over here, because on top of all of that, this is the first phone in the industry to get a TUV SUD 5-star Titan quality certification, specifically for battery performance, water resistant and drop resistant, all 3 certified together. Now, if you guys are finding this video helpful so far, do give this video a nice big thumbs up to tell the people running the YouTube algorithm that this video was helpful and good for you. And a subscription would be extra sweet too, so thank you. And thank you very much in advance as we are on the way towards 300,000 subscribers soon. Thank you guys. Okay, finally we go into day number 3 and here's where I was at. Still at 19% at 11:15 PM. So that is 3 days, 1 charge. So charge sekali, tahan 3 hari lebih for this particular case because it actually holds up. But let's talk about filling the battery back up, because normally a battery this big means charging time that can ruin your morning the first thing when you wake up. However, because Redmi puts in a 100 watts hypercharger on this phone, where the charger does come inside of the box here in Malaysia and certain countries hopefully, so you don't have to hunt for a charger. Now, as for the numbers, 20 minutes takes you from nearly empty to 35%. Now 35% does not sound impressive, right? Until you do the math, because 35% of 10,000 milliamps is around 3,500 milliamps, which is more than half of a flagship phone's battery. And that is the time that you probably go for your shower and even take your breakfast. Then just so you know, 60 minutes gets you about 85% and a full charge lands around 80 minutes. But everything matters more with this particular charging trick, which is the reverse charging trick. Because there's one more use for a battery this big, where there is 27 wired reverse charging, so your phone technically becomes a power bank. Now, based on Redmi's own numbers, the iPhone 17 goes from empty to 50% in about 23 minutes and a full charge is about 104 minutes. And those claims were somewhat true since I do have the iPhone 17 with me. So for that one friend or that 2 friends who always complains about how their battery dies so fast, well, just plug their phone into this phone and it's done. But the question is that how does this not look like a brick, and how did I put 10,000 milliamps of battery into a phone with this size? Well, the answer is simple: silicon carbon battery, which I'm sure you guys already know about. Because while most phones are using graphite, Redmi has swapped with a silicon carbon mix at 16% silicon content. In simple terms, that means that silicon holds more energy in less space, and the energy density here is 906 watt hours per liter. So put this next to a 10,000 milliamps power bank and you can see that the difference in size is obvious. But everything makes sense only if the battery longevity lasts very long, right? So let's go into that. Well, the good news is that there is a total of 6 years that Redmi is promising, not 6 months, yeah? 6 years. Because having a big battery is one story, how long it stays that big is a better story. Now, you know how it usually goes, right? Year number 1, all-day battery. Year 2, half a day. Year 3, you are glued to the wall sitting next to your charging brick. Now, Redmi also rates this battery at 1,600 charging cycles while staying above 80% health. Now, charge it once in every 2 days or so, and that works out to over 6 years. And there's also the Xiaomi Surge G2 chip also managing the battery. So the percentage that you see stays at the most accurate level instead of dropping off a cliff. But here's where the after sales matters when it comes to buying this phone, because there's a 5-year battery warranty. So if your battery health drops below 80% within 5 years, you get a free replacement. Amazing, right? Now, on top of all that, you also get 3 years of screen protection warranty, plus 2 years of liquid damage protection and 2 years of back panel protection as well. Then when it comes to the software, it comes with 4 years of OS updates and 6 years of security updates. So that's a long time to have a peace of mind when owning this particular phone. Now, since I do have a 9-month-old son, the next time he'll be asking for a phone, this one should still be working. But while the cameras are not the main headline over here, here is everything that you need to know. There is a 50 megapixel main sensor with OIS at f1.59, an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 32 megapixel front selfie camera. Now first impressions, the ultra wide photos look really nice with great dynamic range and sharp from edge to edge for this particular 15mm lens, and the star of the show is surely the main lenses, as the 26mm photos were consistently flawless during the day and also at night as well. Now while there is no dedicated telephoto lenses over here, but I have to give huge props for the great quality image for the 2x and the 4x as well, and the portrait selfie photos was also really good too, with amazing skin tones and nice background blur as well. Now video wise, the main lenses records up to 4K, which also look great during the day and look extremely nice at night too, as you can see with this back-to-back footages. Then there's also one mode that you won't find on most phones, especially within this particular segment, which is the underwater mode, where you can just open the camera app, which is perfect for swimming pool, aquarium, water park, where it is actually built to shoot while being submerged. Then quickly on the rest of the phone, it comes with a 6.83-inch 1.5K AMOLED flat display with eye care built in. It drops down to 1 nit of minimum brightness, so late night scrolling in bed does not burn your eyes. Then the chipset is a Snapdragon 6 Gen 5 on a 4nm process paired with LPDDR5X memory and UFS version 4.0 storage. Now that UFS 4.0 storage standard is where most people miss, because this is also what keeps the phone feeling very quick over time. Then there's also a dual speakers with 400% volume boost, Xiaomi HyperOS with Google's Gemini and things like Circle to Search. And the color that you see over here is called the Cloud Blush, which is photochromatic, where if you shine it against the light, the back panel changes color and then fades back when you're under a shade, which is small details, but it's the kind of detail that you normally see on a more expensive phone. So let me just close the loop from the start of this video. Now I went in thinking there will be a compromise, probably a very thick phone, or they would cut corners somewhere, but instead I went 3 days of daily scenario use, 1 unplanned drop and a week of normal use too. So based on me using this daily, I find it quite a surprise, but the part that surprised me even more is that Redmi did not just make the battery bigger, but it made a phone worth keeping long enough for that battery to matter. So this phone is not built to impress you on day 1, it is built to be still fine on day number 1000. Now the Redmi Note 17 Pro Max 5G goes on pre-order starting at 27th of August, and they have some exciting deals for this, so go on to the Xiaomi's website today, link will be down below. Now the Malaysian price gets announced on the 2nd of September, which I'll update also in the comment section below, but do let me know what you guys think of this Redmi Note 17 Pro Max.